To start out, I would like to produce a sporting podcast that follows an interview-style format. The purpose of this is that I want to inspire teenagers and young people in finding the passion and joy that sports bring. Through bringing relevant guests onto my podcast, I would also like to show the potential careers that sports offer and how they can set you up for other job roles in the sporting industry. An example of this would be a footballer who follows a footballing career and then later on becomes a pundit in that industry. Furthermore, I thought this sporting podcast would present the wide variety of sports available to take part in, ranging from team sports to individual sports. So for my first episode, I will plan to focus on the sport of rugby. I will do my first episode with an ex-Warrington Wolves player, Lee Mitchell. His role is now working with the Warrington Wolves Charity Foundation that works on setting up events in schools and inspiring young people into pursuing sporting in rugby. This will be the perfect episode in starting the podcast, as it will give me the ability to gather relevant information and as well as follow the purpose of the podcast, which is to inspire the younger generation. My inspiration has mainly been taken from my love and passion for sports. I've taken up lots of sports at different times in my life, and they have all presented me with joy, passion, and with a wide variety of emotions. For example, I have played football throughout my whole life. This has presented me with lots of satisfaction and joy through winning trophies and medals. On the other hand, golf. Golf is another sport that I have dabbled in. This has presented me with lots of frustration. However, I have enjoyed being out anyway. I understand that not everyone will like every sport, but through my podcast, I want my audience to be inspired by one sport or the other. Furthermore, on the more technical side of things, I've taken inspiration from the Fitness and Lifestyle podcast, as well as the Modern Wisdom podcast. I like that interview style format, and I like, although they have one specific genre, each episode caters to whomever the guest is, and the topics revolve around the specific guest. This is how I would like my podcast to be set up. I believe that following this podcast setup could help my podcast become a success. Another aspect of the Modern Wisdom podcast I like is that Chris Williamson, the host, recalls events and situations in his guest's life that are relevant. He does this through research and bases his question around these situations. Through a Vox Pops, I will do the same as this. To kick off this podcast project, I will need to conduct detailed research to ensure that I've gained the best knowledge with a clear understanding around podcast and how to make a successful one myself. I will do this through gathering a mixture of primary and secondary research to ensure that I maximise the amount of information I gather. Through researching, I can pay close attention to tips and tricks, as well as gaining ideas and understanding from an audience. So that my research is successful, I have put together a list of tasks that I must complete during the research stage. These tasks will ensure that I am best prepared moving forward into the planning stage of the project. I have put together a Gantt chart with a list of all the tasks that I must complete. This gives me a clear view on what my tasks are at hand and what I must do to ensure that my project is a success and is fully completed to the best of my ability. The Gantt chart gives me a clear idea of deadlines and times that I should meet to ensure that I stay on track with my project and complete it on time. I've dedicated the time for each section based on my experience through previous projects, and I've also taken into account college holidays. I have been Louis Hunt with my final major project, Proposal.